We live in a world overflowing with pleasure, constant notifications, endless entertainment, and instant rewards. But what happens when too much pleasure becomes pain? Dopamine Nation is a journey into the hidden chemistry of our brains, revealing why we crave, why we can't stop, and how we can finally regain balance. This is not just a book about addiction, it's a guide to reclaiming control in a society addicted to more. Chapter 1. The Pleasure Trap. We live in a time where pleasure is always at our fingertips. A single click, a quick swipe, or a short scroll can flood the brain with dopamine. But this pleasure is not free. It comes with a hidden cost. This chapter reveals how the modern world has become a trap of constant stimulation, creating highs that are followed by inevitable lows. Dopamine, the brain's messenger of reward, is designed to help us survive by making us seek food, love, and shelter. But now, in a world of overabundance, this system is overloaded. Instead of feeling satisfied, we are left restless, always chasing the next hit. The more we consume, the less pleasure we feel, and the cycle deepens. The trap is not in desire itself, but in excess. True freedom begins when we recognize that more is not always better. Chapter 2. The Balance of Pain and Pleasure. Every burst of pleasure in the brain has a shadow, pain. This is the natural balance, the seesaw that keeps us from tipping too far. When we flood our brains with pleasure, the balance tips, and pain pushes back. This explains why after a binge of anything, sugar, shopping, social media, we feel empty or anxious. This chapter explores how this balance works and why resisting discomfort is making us weaker. Pain, when used wisely, restores the balance. Cold showers, fasting, exercise, these small doses of discomfort strengthen us. Instead of chasing only pleasure, winners understand the role of pain in growth. By embracing discomfort, we reset our dopamine system and find real satisfaction again. Chapter 3. The Highs That Break Us. Modern life offers endless ways to feel good: drugs, games, streaming, likes, and endless scrolling. Each high feels rewarding, but the crash is unavoidable. This chapter explores how highs can slowly break us, not just chemically, but mentally. Every artificial boost of dopamine teaches the brain to expect more. Soon, normal life feels dull and we need greater stimulation just to feel okay. This is how habits turn into addictions. Addiction is not just about substances, it is about the brain's craving for more. The truth is clear, the pursuit of constant highs leaves us lower than before. To escape this cycle, we must redefine pleasure, not as a constant chase, but as a rare and meaningful reward. Chapter 4. Finding Joy in Restraint. Happiness does not come from indulging every desire, it comes from restraint. This chapter introduces the paradox of joy. The less we consume, the more we appreciate. By practicing restraint, we rediscover the sweetness of life's simple pleasures. Imagine fasting all day and then taking the first bite of bread. The joy is far greater than eating without hunger. Restraint sharpens our senses and makes life richer. In a dopamine-saturated world, discipline is not punishment, it is liberation. This is not about rejecting pleasure, but about choosing when and how to enjoy it. When we delay gratification, the reward becomes more powerful and lasting. True winners master restraint, turning simplicity into strength. Chapter 5. The Healing Power of Pain. Pain is not the enemy, it is the medicine. This chapter explores how leaning into discomfort can heal the brain and restore balance, whether through physical challenges, emotional honesty, or the discipline of saying no. Pain resets our system. It gives us back sensitivity to pleasure. Instead of dulling life with constant stimulation, we feel more alive by allowing ourselves to experience struggle. Winners do not run from pain, they use it. pain builds resilience, teaches patience, and reminds us that joy without contrast is meaningless. To focus only on pleasure is to become numb, but to embrace pain is to reclaim control over the endless dopamine cycle. Chapter 6. When pleasure turns to pain. Pleasure always starts sweet, but over time it can turn bitter. The brain, flooded with constant dopamine, adapts by lowering its sensitivity. What once thrilled us no longer excites, and what once satisfied now feels empty. This is why habits escalate. We need more of the same to feel less than before. The cookie becomes 2, the video becomes hours, the sip becomes a bottle, and soon the very thing that brought joy begins to bring pain. This chapter explains how the cycle of overindulgence transforms pleasure into suffering. True awareness begins when we notice that what we crave is also what chains us. By facing this truth, we step onto the path of freedom. Chapter 7. The illusion of control. Most people trapped in cycles of dopamine believe they are still in control. They say, "I can quit any time." They convince themselves that they are choosing, when in fact the brain's reward system has taken over. This illusion of control is powerful because it feels like freedom while stealing it away. This chapter dives into the psychology of denial and the subtle lies we tell ourselves. Addiction thrives in secrecy and self-deception. But when truth is spoken aloud, the illusion shatters. By admitting our loss of control, we reclaim the power to choose. Real strength is not pretending to be free, it is confronting the chains and breaking them. Chapter 8. Radical honesty as medicine. In a dopamine-driven world, lies flourish. We hide our habits, minimize our struggles, and cover our pain. But the cure begins with truth. Radical honesty, saying what is real without excuses, becomes medicine for the mind. This chapter shows how confession, accountability, and openness restore balance to the brain. When we speak the truth, shame loses its grip. When we expose the secret, its power fades. Honesty may sting, but it heals deeper than any pleasure ever could. The dopamine system, reset by truth, becomes capable of real joy again. Winners do not hide behind lies, they face the world raw, and in doing so, they grow stronger. Chapter 9. Embracing discomfort as strength. The modern culture sells comfort as the ultimate goal. Soft couches, instant food, endless entertainment. But the truth is that comfort weakens, while discomfort strengthens. This chapter reveals the secret of those who thrive. They willingly step into discomfort. Cold showers, fasting, exercise, deep focus without distraction. These small acts of chosen discomfort reset the brain. They sharpen willpower, build resilience, and rewire dopamine balance. Every time we resist the easy path, we reclaim control from the endless cycle. Discomfort becomes not a punishment, but a training ground for greatness. The strongest people are not those who avoid pain, but those who make peace with it. Chapter 10. From numbness to aliveness. When dopamine is abused, life becomes numb. Food has no taste, music has no soul, relationships feel hollow. But when we restore balance, the world comes alive again. This chapter paints a picture of recovery. Not as a return to the old, but as an awakening to something deeper. A walk in the sun, a conversation with a friend, a breath of fresh air. These simple things shine brighter when the brain is no longer drowning in overstimulation. The path is not easy, but it is worth it. By stepping away from constant highs, we discover the steady, lasting joy of being alive. Chapter 11. Repairing relationships in a dopamine world. Dopamine-driven habits do not live in a vacuum. They ripple outward and reshape the people closest to us. When one partner compulsively scrolls, another feels ignored. When a friend chases constant stimulation, conversations become shallow. Addiction, whether to screens, substances, or behaviors, erodes trust, shrinks empathy, and creates cycles of blame. Repairing relationships damaged by overconsumption is neither quick nor simple, but it is possible with intention and honesty. The first step is understanding how reward systems change social wiring. The brain begins to prioritize immediate, individually driven pleasure over the slower, reciprocal rewards that relationships offer. When dopamine spikes from novelty or consumption become the norm, the small, steady gratifications of shared rituals, meals together, quiet listening, collaborative projects, look dull by comparison. That mismatch creates distance. Recognizing this mismatch turns bewilderment into strategy. The problem is not the person, it is the reweighted reward landscape in which both people are now operating. Chapter 12. The Neuroscience of Habit: How Small Changes Rewire. Reward habits are the scaffolding of behavior, and dopamine is one of the principal masons. To change what we do repeatedly, we must change the brain's predictions and its learned associations. Neuroscience offers both diagnosis and hope. The brain is plastic, malleable, and responsive to new patterns. Understanding the mechanics of habit formation, cue, routine, reward, gives us leverage. A cue is anything that triggers a pattern: boredom, a notification, a time of day, an environment. The routine is the behavior we perform, from scrolling to smoking to snacking. The reward is the dopamine-driven satisfaction that cements the loop. To break a loop, we can alter any of these three components. Change the cue by introducing friction, move the phone to another room, uninstall the app, leave snacks out of sight. Alter the routine by inserting a replacement behavior. Take a walk instead of scrolling. Breathe for 60 seconds when craving arises. Reframe the reward by delaying gratification or by layering in an alternative reward that taps into slower, more durable pleasure, connection, accomplishment, or creative flow. Chapter 13. Technology, Design, and the Attention Economy. We live and work inside architectures intentionally designed to capture attention. Algorithms optimize for engagement because engagement equals revenue, not well-being. Persuasive design uses variable rewards, social validation loops, and endless novelty to keep dopamine systems activated. Understanding design mechanics is the first defense against them. When you realize an app's layout is intentionally addictive, you move from moralizing to practical strategy. Digital minimalism is not technophobia, it is design of attention. Audit your devices. Which apps give you sustained value and which consume you? Turn off non-essential notifications, batch email and messages into scheduled windows, and use tools that add friction to habitual behaviors. Replace passive scrolling with active consumption. Listen to a long-form podcast that teaches you something. Read a chapter that stretches the mind, or write instead of react. Create phone-free zones and phone-free times, morning rituals that do not start with a feed, and evening wind downs without blue light. Gaming mechanics and social media are especially potent because they combine social proof with random rewards. Counter these by choosing slower, deeper social practices, meaningful conversations, small group meetups, handwritten notes, or shared projects. In workplaces, redesign how meetings and communication run. Brief agendas, fewer mass emails, and clear expectations about response times protect collective attention. The attention economy profits from your distraction. You profit from taking it back. Treat your attention like capital and invest it intentionally. Chapter 14. Treatment Paths, Therapy, Tools, and Community. When dopamine-driven problems become severe, compulsive behaviors, substance dependence, or overwhelming loss of control, clinical approaches can support recovery. Psychotherapy offers structured ways to change behavior and thinking. Cognitive behavioral techniques help identify and reframe the thoughts that trigger automatic behaviors. Dialectical approaches teach distress tolerance and emotional regulation. Motivational interviewing strengthens commitment to change. These are tools, not magic bullets. Medication can be an important part of care for certain conditions, supporting mood stabilization, reducing cravings, or treating co-occurring disorders. Medication decisions should always involve qualified clinicians and personalized planning. Harm reduction approaches meet people where they are, minimizing risk while supporting healthier choices. Peer support groups and recovery communities contribute something medicine cannot: shared experience and belonging. Hearing another person say, "I know exactly how that feels," dissolves isolation and offers a map forward. Practical therapeutic steps often include building routines, sleep hygiene, nutrition, and exercise. Behavioral interventions, contingency management, exposure therapy, and relapse prevention planning turn abstract goals into concrete practices. Recovery is rarely linear. Relapse is often part of the learning curve. What matters is the system you build around yourself: competent care, social support, and daily practices that protect balance. Combining therapy, lifestyle changes, and community creates the strongest scaffold for long-term change. Chapter 14: Treatment Paths, Therapy, Tools, and Community. When dopamine-driven problems become severe, compulsive behaviors, substance dependence, or overwhelming loss of control, clinical approaches can support recovery. Psychotherapy offers structured ways to change behavior and thinking. Cognitive behavioral techniques help identify and reframe the thoughts that trigger automatic behaviors. Dialectical approaches teach distress tolerance and emotional regulation. Motivational interviewing strengthens commitment to change. These are tools, not magic bullets. Medication can be an important part of care for certain conditions, supporting mood stabilization, reducing cravings, or treating co-occurring disorders. Medication decisions should always involve qualified clinicians and personalized planning. Harm reduction approaches meet people where they are, minimizing risk while supporting healthier choices. Peer support groups and recovery communities contribute something medicine cannot: shared experience and belonging. Hearing another person say, "I know exactly how that feels," dissolves isolation and offers a map forward. Practical therapeutic steps often include building routines, sleep hygiene, nutrition, and exercise. Behavioral interventions, contingency management, exposure therapy, and relapse prevention planning turn abstract goals into concrete practices. Recovery is rarely linear. Relapse is often part of the learning curve. What matters is the system you build around yourself: competent care, social support, and daily practices that protect balance. Combining therapy, lifestyle changes, and community creates the strongest scaffold for long-term change. Chapter 15: Designing a Life that Sustains Joy. Recovery and balance are not merely about removing harmful inputs. They are about cultivating lasting sources of meaning and pleasure that do not destroy you. The final work is design, intentionally composing a life where flow, connection, mastery, and service provide reliable satisfaction. Flow states, deep, focused engagement in challenging activity, release dopamine in healthy rhythms and build competence and meaning. Creative work, learning a craft, and physical training are fertile ground for flow. Cultivate slow pleasures: a long walk, a meal cooked with care, a conversation that lasts. Build rituals that anchor you: morning pages, weekly walks, evening gratitude. Invest in community, friends, family, teams whose slow, reciprocal rewards outvalue immediate hits. Purposeful work, projects that require sustained effort and contribute beyond the self, transforms raw dopamine into durable fulfillment. Financial habits that reduce scarcity, time management that protects focus, and sleep that restores physiology are all architecture for sustained joy. Relapse prevention becomes design thinking. Anticipate triggers, map fallback plans, and create environments that nudge toward your chosen life. Celebrate small wins, track progress, and be compassionate with setbacks. Pleasure hygiene is a lifelong practice. Rotate sources of reward, schedule fasts from high-intensity stimuli, and return to the simple pleasures that first grounded you. When the scaffolding is strong, when purpose, relationships, mastery, and rest are woven together, life feels richly textured rather than flattened by constant craving. The goal is not numbness or austerity. It is full presence, where delight is deep, steady, and earned. Chapter 16. Relearning pleasure. Cultivating slow rewards. When the brain is rewired by constant novelty and instant gratification, the ordinary pleasures of life begin to look pale. A sunset seems dimmer, a conversation thinner, a meal less satisfying. This chapter explores the intentional practice of relearning pleasure, teaching the nervous system to appreciate slow, cumulative rewards that sustain rather than hollow us out. Recovery from a dopamine-saturated life is not simply abstaining, it is retraining. The work is deliberate, gradual, and often humble. Relearning pleasure begins with attention. Modern overstimulation fragments attention into ever shorter bursts. You cannot taste a meal while checking your phone. You cannot savor a friendship while scrolling a feed. The first practice is to slow down and give undivided presence to small acts. Eat without screens, walk without podcasts, sit with a friend without rehearsing a response. Presence lets the brain register subtle signals, texture, tone, warmth, that variable novelty had been hiding. Over time, these micro-acts of attention expand the brain's reward map to include deeper, richer stimuli. A second pathway is mastery. Humans are wired to find pleasure in competence. The dopamine rush from mastery is slower but more durable than the quick spike of novelty. It compounds as skill accrues. Learning an instrument, developing a craft, training in a sport, these activities produce flow states where challenge and ability meet, releasing dopamine in balanced, meaningful ways. Encouraging deliberate practice means designing life with projects that demand patience and yield growing competence. The joy of getting better is a steady current beneath the stormy waves of novelty. Third, connection is essential. Social rewards are among the deepest and most protective against addictive cycles, but they require reciprocity and vulnerability. Superficial online likes mimic social praise without the substance. In-person, reciprocal caring rewires reward systems to value relationship over novelty. Rituals, weekly dinners, collaborative work, mentoring create predictable, shared rewards that the brain can learn to prefer. These slow social economies protect against the hollowness of isolated stimulation. Finally, ritualized restraint sharpens delight. The neuroscientific logic is simple. Intermittent reward increases desire, but intermittent restraint followed by meaningful reward increases appreciation. A weekly dessert tastes more joyful than a daily binge. A weekend tech fast restores the pleasures of a Monday morning's reading. Relearning pleasure is a design problem as much as a personal one. Arrange your days, your friendships, and your projects so that small, repeatable pleasures can accumulate into a life that feels rich rather than numb. This is the art of building sustainable joy. الفصل 17 يناقش هذا الفصل العلاقة بين التكنولوجيا والدماغ الجماعي للبشرية. يطرح الكاتب سؤالا مثيرا: ماذا يحدث حين تعيش أمة كاملة تحت سطوة الدوبامين الصناعي؟ يبين أن المجتمعات اليوم تعاني من أشكال جديدة من الإدمان الجماعي، حيث أصبح التشتت سمة عامة، والقدرة على التركيز الجماعي في القرارات السياسية أو الاقتصادية أضعف مما مضى. يشير إلى أن قوة شركات التكنولوجيا العملاقة لا تكمن فقط في جمع البيانات، بل في السيطرة على أنماط إفراز الدوبامين لدى مئات الملايين من المستخدمين. يستعرض الكاتب أمثلة من الواقع، كيف أن منصات التواصل تضبط خوارزمياتها لزيادة الوقت الذي يقضيه الفرد على الشاشة، فتغذي الفضول والجدل والغضب، لأنها مشاعر تفرز المزيد من الدوبامين، وبالتالي تحقق المزيد من الأرباح. النتيجة هي أن المجتمعات أصبحت أكثر انقساما، إذ أن دوائر الاهتمام الضيقة والفقاعات المعلوماتية تغذي تعصبات الناس وتجعلهم أسرى لإشعارات وإثارة متواصلة. لكن الكاتب لا يكتفي بالتحذير، بل يقترح حلولا جماعية يدعو إلى نشر ثقافة الصيام الرقمي على مستوى المجتمعات، أي تبني أيام أو ساعات محددة خالية من الشاشات في المدارس، أماكن العمل وحتى الأسر، كما يشجع على سن قوانين أكثر صرامة تحد من استغلال الشركات لعلم الأعصاب في زيادة الإدمان الرقمي. ويؤكد أن استعادة السيطرة على وقتنا وانتباهنا ليست مسألة فردية فقط، بل هي ضرورة مجتمعية حتى لا تنهار قدرتنا الجماعية على التخطيط للمستقبل. يختم الكاتب بأن الدوبامين الذي صمم في الأصل ليقودنا إلى الاستكشاف والإبداع أصبح سلاحاً في يد من يحسن استغلاله، ومن هنا فإن الوعي والاتحاد هما السبيل لإعادة استخدامه في خدمة الإنسان بدلاً من السيطرة عليه. الفصل 18 يأخذنا هذا الفصل إلى بعد فلسفي عميق، حيث يتأمل الكاتب في معنى السعادة الحقيقية في زمن الهيمنة الدوبامينية. يسأل: هل نحن أكثر سعادة حقاً أم أننا فقط أكثر تحفيزاً؟ يوضح أن الفرق كبير بين السعادة والمتعة، فالمتعة مرتبطة بالدوبامين وتستمر لدقائق أو ساعات، بينما السعادة العميقة تنبع من السيروتونين والأكسيتوسين والنواقل العصبية المرتبطة بالانتماء والمعنى والرضا. يعرض الكاتب أمثلة لأشخاص سعوا وراء اللذة السريعة دون توقف، من قضى حياته أمام ألعاب الفيديو، ومن عاش على منصات التواصل، ومن طارد المال والنجاح الخارجي دون أن يجد طمأنينة داخلية. هؤلاء جميعا اكتشفوا أن حياتهم افتقرت إلى عمق حقيقي، وأنهم أصبحوا أسرى لمطاردة لا تنتهي. في المقابل يورد قصصا لأشخاص تبنوا فلسفة العيش البطيء، أي إبطاء الإيقاع والبحث عن المعنى في التجارب الصغيرة، الحديث مع صديق، إنجاز عمل بإتقان، أو لحظة تأمل صافية. يقدم الكاتب ما يسميه ثلاثية التحرر من أثر الدوبامين. أولاً، الوعي بأن المتعة ليست سعادة. ثانياً، التدريب على الانضباط الداخلي لتقليل الانغماس في المحفزات السريعة. وثالثاً، بناء مصادر بديلة للرضا مثل الإبداع والفن والعلاقات العميقة والروحانيات. ويشير إلى أن السعادة ليست هدفاً خارجياً يطارد، بل هي ثمرة لاختيار أسلوب حياة متوازن يسمح للعقل أن يعيش وفق إيقاعه الطبيعي، لا وفق إيقاع الخوارزميات. ينهي هذا الفصل بتأكيد أن التحدي الأكبر أمام أمتنا اليوم ليس وفرة المتعة، بل ندرة المعنى، وأن الطريق نحو الحرية يبدأ حين ندرك أن قدرتنا على ضبط الدوبامين ليست حرماناً، بل استعادة لسيادتنا على حياتنا. الفصل 19: التوازن المفقود في عصر الإدمان. حين نتمعن في تفاصيل حياتنا اليومية ندرك أننا لم نعد نعيش فقط مع التكنولوجيا، بل أصبحنا نعيش بداخلها، نتنفسها ونعتمد عليها في كل شيء. ومع هذا التداخل أصبح الدوبامين حاضراً بشكل مفرط يوجه قراراتنا وأفعالنا. في هذا الفصل يوضح الكاتب أن السر لا يكمن في القضاء على مصادر التحفيز أو الابتعاد عنها كلياً، بل في إعادة ضبط علاقتنا بها. فالإنسان بحاجة إلى المتعة كي يعيش ويبدع، لكن المتعة حين تتحول إلى إدمان تصبح قيداً يحرمه من الحرية. ويستعرض الكاتب دراسات توضح أن تقليل الجرعات المتكررة من المتعة اللحظية مثل تصفح الهاتف أو مشاهدة الفيديوهات القصيرة يمنح الدماغ فرصة لإعادة التوازن. كذلك يشدد على أهمية تدريب النفس على الانضباط الذاتي عبر أنشطة يومية بسيطة، مثل تحديد وقت لاستخدام الأجهزة أو تخصيص ساعات للنوم بلا شاشات. الهدف ليس الحرمان، بل التوازن، أن نتحكم نحن في الدوبامين لا أن يتحكم هو بنا. الفصل 20: نحو أمة واعية بالدوبامين. في الفصل الأخير يتحدث الكاتب عن ضرورة بناء وعي جماعي بقوة الدوبامين وكيفية تأثيره في تشكيل سلوك المجتمعات. فالمشكلة لم تعد فردية، بل تحولت إلى قضية ثقافية كبرى، حيث تبنى منصات كاملة على استغلال ضعف الإنسان أمام المتعة الفورية. يوضح أن الحل يكمن في نشر ثقافة الاستخدام الواعي، أي أن نكون على دراية بما نستهلكه من وقت وطاقة، وأن نتساءل دوما: هل ما نفعله الآن يخدم أهدافنا طويلة المدى أم أنه مجرد إرضاء لحظة عابرة؟ كما يشير إلى أن المؤسسات التعليمية والبيئة الأسرية لها دور محوري في تعليم الأجيال القادمة كيفية التعامل مع الإغراءات الرقمية. ليست الدعوة إلى ترك التكنولوجيا، بل إلى استعادتها كأداة نافعة بدلاً من أن تكون سيداً يحرك خيوط حياتنا. إنه نداء لإعادة التفكير في علاقتنا بالمتعة حتى نصبح أمة أكثر وعياً، قادرة على التمييز بين الحرية الحقيقية والقيود التي تصاغ في صورة لذة. الخاتمة: كتاب أمة الدوبامين هو بمثابة مرآة صادقة تعكس ملامح عصرنا، حيث تختلط اللذة بالقلق والمتعة بالعبودية الخفية. لقد كشف لنا الكاتب أن المشكلة ليست في الدوبامين نفسه، فهو جزء من طبيعتنا البشرية، بل في طريقة تعاملنا معه حين يتحول إلى محرك رئيسي لكل قراراتنا. ومن خلال الفصول 20 أدركنا أن التوازن هو كلمة السر، توازن بين العمل والراحة، بين المتعة الفورية والإنجاز طويل الأمد، بين التكنولوجيا كأداة والتكنولوجيا كسجن. الرسالة النهائية واضحة: المستقبل ملك لمن يعرف كيف يعيد توجيه عقله ويختار بوعي ما يغذي دماغه لا ما يستنزفه. وهكذا يصبح الإنسان سيد نفسه، لا أسيرا لموجات المتعة العابرة.